What is up, YouTube? Welcome back to Nerd Media, and Daredevil Born Again has dropped its fourth episode today. And guys, it may very well be some of the best MCU content we have gotten, not just in the past few years, but just ever. And in this video, I'm going to be diving into why I think that. Obviously, we're going to be diving into some spoilers. We're going to be diving into just a full, in-depth review about my favorite moments and just overall the things I loved about this episode, and talking about definitely one of the best acted out and written dialogue scenes that we've had for two characters in one room together ever in the MCU. So with all that being said, don't forget to like and subscribe. Comment down below your thoughts on episode 4 of Daredevil, and let's dive right into the video. So guys, I did say there would be spoilers, but honestly this isn't really a spoiler anymore because Marvel has already confirmed it themselves. Frank Castle is back. We got him back in this episode, and guys, I'm gonna dive in there to Matt and Frank's scene a little bit later, but I'm just gonna say it right now. That is one of the most well-written scenes that we've gotten from the MCU. I think in general, just ever, because when you have Matt Murdock and Frank Castle in the same room together, you always get a top-tier conversation that is just so great. And the last time that we got something like that was in season 2 on that rooftop scene, which is one of my favorite scenes of that whole entire show of Daredevil. But this scene in particular was so good, and it was so great to see Frank again. And he did not seem that upset when he found out that people are using his logo. He was just like, oh, it's just some fanboys. So I think that's pretty funny. I feel like the next two episodes that we have next week are going to heavily be about Frank joining the fight with Matt against the anti-vigilante league. And I'm going to say this right now, the only flaw that I had with this episode that didn't really bother me that much, but I just noticed, was that you can definitely tell where the cut line is between what the original Daredevil Born Again was supposed to be and what the reshot new scenes are, because it feels like totally different episodes where you have like a kind of comedy based Kingpin, and you have Matt Murdock, doing what he does with the lawyer stuff and everything, which was supposed to be the main plot line of the original show. So seeing him do a lot of this lawyer stuff with getting new clients and everything is something that we were supposed to fully get in a wholly totally different show. And you can definitely feel that, especially with some of the comedy moments, because Fisk, I feel like, was just mainly just a comedy character this episode, which I honestly am not complaining about. I think that the moments that he had were hilarious, and I think that he had some of the funniest moments of this whole show so far, and I'll give it to him because we did get to see our classic Kingpin at the end of this episode, which I gotta say, it feels good seeing Kingpin still being Kingpin and doing Kingpin things. Sticking with the lawyer side of Matt Murdock and what we got in the first half of this episode, his new client that he had, I wasn't really sure where they were 100% going with that character and what the purpose of him was, but I really love how the thing of Matt having him as a client really just shows how Matt is starting to lose faith in the system. And when you look back on that, he already kind of felt that in episode 1 when Bullseye gets sentenced to life, when Frank makes a great point in this episode. Foggy doesn't have a life, so how is that fair? Which I think is a very great setup for Matt, because he has lost faith in his religion before, but now he's losing faith in the law. Obviously, following the murder of White Tiger, we do actually get a lot more groundwork being laid for his niece becoming White Tiger when she comes into the police precinct, and she basically says that she hates the city, and I feel like that is a very clear, hopefully, set up for that character. I know Marvel, especially in Disney Plus shows, tends to set up a lot of new characters that we just never see come to the light of day, which unfortunately I feel like this may be part of that case, but they just couldn't remove it because it either still served the story well or it wouldn't flow as well. But I don't know. I don't really see it actually taking a place in the future. I will be very happy if it does, but it's very cool to know that they at least acknowledge trying to set it up. But just knowing Marvel, I doubt it's going to actually turn into something, especially with there being a rumored total reset with Secret Wars and everything. I just don't know. All right, guys, we're going to be talking about this for a little bit because the Matt and Frank Castle confrontation was so good, because as soon as I saw that he was confirmed to be in this episode, because the literal thumbnail of the Disney Plus episode is Frank, so I was like, all right, he's in this episode, and I was so hyped because second longest episode of the season so far, so I was like really excited. But we get him like, I think, like 40 minutes into the episode, and guys, the dialogue that they have in that is so good. This is one of the best scenes that we've gotten for the MCU. It's one of the best, it's one of the most well acted, well written, and just greatest scenes that I think I've seen the MCU do in a long time. Like, this measures up to the scenes that we get of Cap and Tony, like when they're having a conflict in Civil War and they're having a back and forth dialogue, which is really well written dialogue. I think this is a little bit above that just because of it being Frank and Matt and how iconic their conversations usually are. And I think that this one was no different. It was so great, and to see those two vulnerable with each other while they're both mourning people that they have lost, I think was brilliant, and that was done so well, and I love that so much, and I love that we got to see that because, you know, I don't think we've ever seen these two this vulnerable before in this area, like, together. And I thought it was done very well. And Frank with a beard and long hair, I think I dig a little bit more than him just having all of his hair shaved off on his head. But I think that, Frank's been through some stuff. We can clearly tell he's a little bit beat up and he does not look like he's been doing great. But it was great to see him, and I am so excited to see him again. We know we're seeing him again because there are photos and there are literal trailer clips of him fully shaved, haircut, everything with the Punisher fit on. So either that's going to be in the 2 episode drop that we get next week, 5 and 6, or it's going to be in the finale in episode 9. And honestly, my money is probably going to be on episode 9. But if they're going to do a thing where they're going to close this storyline next week with the 2 episode drop, and then we get into the Muse stuff heavily in the last half, then I will expect it to be next week. But man, not thinking about next week, I am so happy about the confrontation that we got and the scenes that we got with Frank. It was so well delivered and so well deserved for the fans because we have missed him and we have missed the dialogue that these two have had with each other. And it was just so great. I mean, just some of the stuff that they talk about in that dialogue was so great when Matt says that Bullseye got life, and then we see Frank ask if he did Foggy get a life. I think that was just so well done, and to see them both talk about how Matt sees Foggy and he tells him stuff, and he hears his voice and he has his voice in his head, and how Frank has the same thing with his son, I thought was just so good. And I have not seen the MCU with this top tier writing in quite a bit. I mean, I don't want to be over dramatic and say it's been years, but it has been quite a bit since I've seen something like this where I have genuinely, once the episode was done or once I was done watching what I'm watching, I just was so excited to talk about it. I was so excited to talk about this one specific scene on the video today because just honestly, top tier MCU moment. I gotta say, the second highlight that I had for this episode was seeing Muse show up, and we did see him a little bit last episode, but it's clear in this episode that they're really setting him up to be the next villain that we see if they're gonna close out the whole like police task force vigilante arc next week with a 2 episode drop. Then we're going to do Muse right after that. I'm very excited for Muse, and the introduction that we had to him was very horrifying, very brutal. And I am definitely scared of this character already and the things that we have seen him do so far. But I am very excited to see him confront Matt. And the fact that we're getting this kind of a villain in the MCU is really just great to me. I mean, I don't think in a million years would have expected to get a villain like this in the MCU, but here we are, and it's in a Daredevil show, which is just so much better, and I am just so excited for that storyline. I'm so glad that we got like such so many pieces of that story in this episode without really showing too much, and I'm very excited for that. But something that I'm going to continue to theorize on is how does Matt get involved with Muse and his everything that he's doing with his paintings and everything. I feel like Muse is going to have to take somebody that Matt cares about or somebody close to him, maybe one of his clients, something like that to get him involved and want to take down Muse. Because remember, there is an iconic trailer shot in the first Daredevil trailer where he is just totally beating up Muse, and it really looks like Matt is pissed. So I am very excited to see where that is going to go, but it's also making me a little bit nervous that it could be his new girlfriend, but we'll have to wait and see because I don't know. I don't think she's making it out alive this season. I just don't know. And I loved how the episode ended with seeing Kingpin and Matt kind of relapse into their old ways in different kind of like tones, where Matt is on the roof using his sticks and everything. I thought was so cool, and it shows how he is probably leaning more towards being Daredevil again, and he is kind of very tempted to do that. And then we see Kingpin go down into this basement eating a cheat meal, which what it seems like, because he's been on a heavy diet this season for some reason, which I think is hilarious. And we see he has Adam locked up, which we all knew something was going on, and they kind of revealed it this episode that the reason why Fisk had those markings on his fist was because he was beating up Adam. So that is officially confirmed, but it's so great to see OG Fisk again doing Fisk things, which I think is just dope. I cannot wait to see these two when they ultimately clash together with their lives, which is probably going to happen through Matt's new girlfriend, considering that Fisk and Vanessa are going to couples therapy, and she's the one that is being the therapist for them. So I feel like that is going to clash somehow, and if she doesn't die to Muse, I feel like Fisk is going to find out that Matt is dating her, that maybe he's going to take her captive and tempt Matt with something and just tell him to stay away, which I think could very likely happen over the Muse thing. I still don't think she's making it out alive though, but the ultimate clash between those two is going to be iconic, and I cannot wait for that. But overall, guys, if you couldn't tell, I loved this episode so much. It has one of the best MCU scenes that we've gotten in recent years, maybe even top 10 MCU moment into MCU scene. It has some of the best just overall character moments, and I loved it. It's my favorite Disney Plus episode for a Marvel Disney Plus show. It is my favorite of the season so far, and overall, I am so excited, and I am so happy that we are getting 5 and 6 next week, because, man, I'm really really excited to see where these characters are going to go next, because it's just so exciting. They set up so many exciting things. They're doing so many exciting things. I'm overall just super happy with this show so far. I'm loving it, and I'm so happy that I'm loving it this much. But the more I love it, the more it's really making me realize how hard it's going to be at the end of the year to rank all the comic book TV shows and TV shows in general that we watched this year, because every single one of them has been great so far. Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man, Invincible, now Daredevil, every single one of them has been great. And honestly, it's going to be hard, but we're going to power through it. And honestly, guys, I really hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know in the comments down below what you thought of episode 4 of Daredevil Born Again. And with all that being said, I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.